Peter, the apostles, and the call to purity. In the early days after Messiah's resurrection, the question arose, how do the Gentiles, the pagans who once worshipped idols and lived among temples of impurity, enter into the covenant of Israel's God? Peter, along with James, John, and the other apostles, gathered to seek the wisdom of the Holy Spirit. The Gentiles were pouring into the faith, not only Jews but men and women from Rome, Greece, and Asia, who had grown up surrounded by temples dedicated to Dionysus, Aphrodite, and countless gods of pleasure. These places of worship were not simply shrines, they were dens of sexual immorality, festivals of drunkenness, and rituals of impurity. The apostles knew that to walk with the God of Israel was not to live as the nations lived. So they laid down the first foundations. They must abstain from food sacrificed to idols. They must flee from sexual immorality. They must keep themselves from things strangled and from blood. These commands were not the end of their learning, but the beginning. As James said in Acts 15, "For Moses has been preached in every city from the earliest times and is read in the synagogues on every Sabbath." The Gentiles were expected to grow, to learn the Sabbaths and the feasts of the Lord, to hear the Torah read week after week, and to be grafted into the holy root of Israel's covenant. The synagogue became their place of learning and fellowship, a symbol of purity. To step into a pagan temple, however, was to walk again into the shadows of false worship. And just as the apostles warned then, so too do we see the parallels today. Many have been taught that the clean laws of God no longer matter, though the Messiah himself never ate swine or shellfish, nor called them holy. Many gather on Sunday, the day dedicated to the Son God long before the Church claimed it, instead of the seventh-day Sabbath that God himself sanctified at creation. Feasts once commanded by the Lord. Passover tabernacles, the Day of Atonement, have been traded for festivals with pagan roots. Easter with its fertility symbols, Christmas with its borrowed winter solstice rites, and Halloween with its celebration of death. Even in matters of purity, we live in a culture that normalizes immorality, where even the slightest touch can be charged with unholy intent, and where marriage is dishonored in favor of endless pleasure. But just as in Peter's day, God calls his people to come out and be separate, to live differently than the nations. Yeshua was not a Babylonian, nor a Roman, nor a Greek. He was Jewish, the promised Messiah who upheld his Father's commandments. To follow him is to walk as he walked, keeping the Sabbath, honoring the appointed times, guarding our bodies and souls from corruption, and worshiping the one true God in purity. The story of the early believers reminds us that the way is narrow. It is not shaped by the hands of men or decrees of empires, but by the word of the living God. Just as the apostles set boundaries for the Gentiles to begin their journey, we too are called to grow in obedience, shedding pagan traditions and walking in the light of Messiah's example.